Welcome to Wednesdays with Will. Clearly we're not in the kitchen today. I'd like to talk to you about one of the highlights of my career here at the church. It was the renovation of the sanctuary with the installation of the new pipe organ. To get the best sound of that out of the organ, many things happened before the organ was even installed. We started by removing the wall-to-wall carpeting and replacing it with a porcelain tile. Then, in consultation with an acoustical engineer and the organ builders, we decided to harden the ceiling in the chancel area to help project the sound down the sanctuary. Next, we had to renovate the chancel area to accommodate the increased footprint of the new organ chambers. And then, well, the pews were in need of refinishing and the walls in need of painting. So we started all that. And then the 1958 air conditioner decided 60 years was enough and gave up the ghost. So there we were. We got almost a completely new room. We had been talking for a few years about needed work on our previous organ. We interviewed several organ companies and ended up choosing the Gala Organ Company of Paterson, New Jersey to help us with these repairs. They are a four-generation family-run business that's been in the organ building business for over 100 years now. In fact, our organ that was their Opus 751, it was their major build during their 100th year of operation. Having been through this process with them, I can't imagine doing it with another organ company. We got the pleasure of visiting up to the shop while our organ was being built to see the progress and to finalize the tonal specifications. On that trip, we toured several organs to listen to different things we might add to our organ. One of those was St. Patrick's Cathedral. Now, this was very cool to get to go see the organ there. We got the behind the scenes tour, got to climb up through the attic and all where the organ was. At one point we're walking through the space where the blower was, and there's a spiral staircase that just goes up through the ceiling. And someone says, well, where does that go? John 4 tells us that leads up to the spire, up into one of the spires. And so someone said, can we go? And he said, sure. And so several of us started up the spiral staircase. I could hear people giving up behind me and heading back down. And before you knew it, I was the only one still going up. And I thought, well, I got to be getting close. And so I'd go up. You could only see a little ways because it'd go 2 spins around and then there'd be a landing. And so I kept thinking, well, I'm close. And I go a little further and I'm like, oh, I've come this far, I can't stop now. I finally made it to the top and I got a great picture up out of the highest window looking at the other spire on the other side of the chapel there. Well, I finally made it back down, caught up with the group on the tour, and I may have missed a little bit, but I found out later I got to go back. So, that was great to see, but later in the day we're walking around, I'm like, man, my legs are sore. Well, I figured out why, because I looked up how tall the spires were and figured I'd just climbed a 30-story building. And so now I know when you start up a spiral staircase, know where you're going. But later that night, we went out to dinner with the family and some members of the company. And we get back to the hotel. We're driving back to the hotel. Julie and I are riding with Frank and his wife, Josephine. And we get out of the car at the hotel, and John 4 had received a call that the organ at Radio City Music Hall was not turning on. And they were in the middle of the practice season, getting ready for the season. And so it had to be repaired that night. So someone in the car had said, well, Will, I'd love to go with you. And he said, is that true? I said, you bet it is. So we hopped in his car and got his tools and went off for a quick repair of the organ there at Radio City Music Hall. Well, we made it back to the hotel by about 3 a.m., made for a sleepy day the next day. But it was great to get to see another organ. Very different from the organs, there was drum sets and pianos on it. I mean, it was truly an amazing instrument. And I had a great time doing it. Was a little sleepy the next day. But that was a great trip. We got to know them a little bit better and got to see our organ, and it was looking great in their shop. I think we may have thrown the Galas for a loop when they came down for the organ install. I don't think they'd ever had a client so involved in the actual install process as we were. I don't know how many times John 4 told us on the first day, you don't have to do that, as we were carrying pipes into the sanctuary. But, you know, I looked at him and said, hey, we're going to be a part of this. And by the end of the second day, they had accepted us as part of the crew. And we were doing everything anybody else was doing. The only difference was Frank wouldn't yell at us. He came close a couple times, but I think he realized it was us and stopped himself. When we put the first pipe organ in 1986, the industry was in the process of switching to electronic or digital controls. We ended up with the old technology, which is still in use in many organs today. But ours was beginning to fail, and the technology is not readily available. The new console you see here is really more like a computer. The old console had a huge bundle of wires that ran from the console all the way up into the chambers, because there was a wire for each individual valve under each pipe. And 2,500 pipes at the time or so. And so that got to be a big bundle of wires. This new computer-controlled console, there's an Ethernet cable. You know, you have those hooking your computer to the wall nowadays. And that sends all the signals back into the back, where there's still, it goes through a processor, and there's still an individual wire that goes to each pipe. But it doesn't have to come all the way out to the console. The new console was custom designed and built by the Gala Organ Company in consultation with Dr. Jungjin Kim on the layout and style. It is in the French terrace design, which gives it a lower profile, gives it a more elegant look, and makes the draw knobs or stop knobs easier to reach. Our organ is a 3-manual organ, or 3 rows of keys. Each manual has 61 notes from low C to the top C. The middle octave is aptly named the middle octave, and going down from there you have the tenor octave and then the lower octave. Going up you have the octave above and the top octave. These designations are important for tuners, because tuning is a 2-person job. The tuner is up in the pipe chambers, and the helper who's down here holds the notes so that they can be tuned. They have to be able to communicate about which note they're tuning. The 3 manuals correspond to the 3 chambers of the organ. There's the grate, this is in the middle, the positive on the right side of the sanctuary, and the receipt on the left. There is also a pedal board, which is played with the feet. The pedal board has 32 notes. It goes from tenor C to the G above. Now, if you've been keeping track, that's 4 divisions. The grate, the positive, the receipt, and the pedal. We have a 5th division, which is the antiphonal, which sounds from the balcony. This gives us the ability to fill the sanctuary with organ music coming from the front and the back, or to do a call and response with just the organ. The stop knobs or draw knobs are on the side of the console. Each stop knob corresponds to a specific set of pipes called a rank. When a stop is pulled out, it will play on the corresponding manual. One or all of the stops can be played at a time on each manual. So if we have one out, the organist can layer the sounds in there to achieve the desired effect. The number on the stop knob tells what length the longest pipe is in the rank. So the numbers usually are 2, 4, 8, 16, and so on. And so a 2-foot corresponds to a rank that its longest pipe is 2 feet long. We have some 32s over here in our pedal division, which would correspond to a 32-foot pipe. Another notation on a stop knob is a Roman numeral. If the knob has a Roman numeral on it, that indicates that it's a mixture rank. And so a knob with a Roman numeral 4, anytime you play a note in that, It is actually the combination of 4 pipes playing at once. On the lower level, you can see the main controller that's hooked to the organ console. As we move down here, you can see the bottom of some of the longer pipes. Back here is the 16-foot mantra. I'm sorry, that's the 16-foot bombard. And these large pipes right here are at the bottom of the 16-foot mantra. What you're seeing around me now is parts of the wind system that supplies the air that plays the pipes. These large PVC pipes all run back to a blower that's in the room behind the pulpit in the sanctuary. They feed into these boxes right here that you'll see around with springs on them. These are called reservoirs. The reservoirs help regulate the pressure that is going to the individual wind chest. Different pipes need different pressures, so they can regulate that to an extent with the stoutness of the springs they put on the boxes. So a heavier spring and they put more pressure in the box, a lighter spring they put less, I think. It may be reversed, but I'm not 100% certain how those work. But they are part of the wind system, and so each chest will have a reservoir that supplies the air to that wind chest. The wind chests then have all the valves in them that will open and close to bring on the individual pipes. We are now in the lower level of the grate division of the organ. In front of me, you'll see some large round pipes here. Those are the bottom of the 16-foot mantra pipes. And to my right is the bottom of the 16-foot bombard pipes. Now, to my left, you'll notice some big black boxes. You'll recall that we said we had some 32-foot stops on our organ in the pedal division. Well, we didn't have room for, or the budget for 32-foot pipes. So to get that sound, it's produced digitally and is played through these large speakers here through some amazing software that most people can't even tell the difference whether it's a digital or an actual pipe playing in many of the stops. So not just the 32s, but there's some additional stops that we've added that are digital that help round out the sound of our organ. Now, it's always the big question, is it a digital organ, or is it with pipes, or is it a pipe organ with digital added? The test for that is if you can turn off all the digital and still have a full organ, then you've got a pipe organ that's supplemented by digital. Well, we can do that. Our pipe organ has 45 ranks of pipe, a total of nearly 2,600 pipes in it. And so we truly have a pipe organ, but we've chosen to supplement it so we can get a broader, rounder sound. There are 2 basic types of pipes with many variations. There's the flue pipe, like a chimney flue, F-L-U-E, I believe. And then there's a reed pipe, kind of like a clarinet. So we're going to look at a flue pipe first. This is a pipe from the 4-foot Preston. Now, the flue pipe starts at the bottom is the toe, and the toe has a hole that the air comes through. You can increase or decrease the size of the hole to adjust the volume of the pipe. The toe is connected to the foot, this part, which is connected to the mouth, and then the body. So if we were all built like a pipe, we would speak a lot lower. And then at the top of the body is a tuning sleeve. And by raising the tuning sleeve up, you lower the pitch of the pipe. Lowering the tuning sleeve raises the pitch of the pipe. Also, the lower lip and the upper lip of the mouth can be adjusted in relationship to each other to determine how fast or harsh the pipe speaks when air is introduced. This here is an example of a stopped pipe. Now the only difference is that between a regular flue pipe and a stopped flue pipe is that there's a cap or a plug inside the stopped flue pipe. This one happens to have a hole in it, in the top. Some of them don't, but some do. What this does is this effectively doubles the speaking height of the pipe. So if you have an 8-foot stopped pipe, it speaks as if it's a 16-foot pipe. But it has the same toe, foot, mouth, and the stopper acts as your tuning ring. And so by raising or lowering the stopper, you can adjust the pitch of the pipe. So the flue pipes have no moving parts when they're playing. The next pipe we're going to look at is the reed pipe. And as you might have guessed, the reed pipe has a moving part. I'm going to remove the boot, which is this bottom part, off this reed. This is out of a 4-foot clarion up here in the great chamber. And if you look down here, this brass piece sticking out, the thicker piece is the shallot. And it's got a groove down it. And then this little thin sliver sits on it. It's called the tongue. And it's held in with a wedge. And then this copper wire here is the tuning wire. It goes through the block here. And then the top of the pipe is the resonator, which amplifies the sound as it comes out. The tongue, as the air passes through here, the tongue vibrates in front of the shot, and that's what makes the sound that the resonator amplifies. You would tune this by hammering the tuning wire up and down so that as you go up, it'll lower the pitch. As you go down, it raises the pitch. So I'm going to put this back together, making sure everything's lined up correctly, and then we'll put that back. Another aspect of pipe organ construction is how the pipes are actually laid out inside the chamber. There are 3 basic layouts. The first one we're going to talk about is the Terrace Layout. Now if you look at these, you'll notice there's high pipes over here, or taller pipes over here, short pipes in the middle, and tall pipes back over here. There's another set that mirrors it over here on the other side. And so it gives 4 groups essentially that go from a taller pipe down to a shorter pipe. And it takes all 4 of those groups to make up a rank of pipes. So if I look at the taller pipe here, the pipe next to it is going to actually be the 4th note down. So because the 4 taller pipes make up the first 4 notes, I guess it'll be the 5th note down. So when you're tuning a Terrace layout, usually it helps if your helper knows that, so that you would tune and then he'd hit the 5th note and then the 9th note. And you'd tune one side, then you'd go tune the other side. And so that's how this layout works. Another arrangement of pipes that we have in this chamber is the chromatic arrangement. The pipes, you see this set of pipes here starts with the tallest pipe or lowest pipe, and it goes fully in order all the way down to the highest pipe or shortest pipe. And so this has 61 pipes in a row, and each pipe represents a half step. So I guess technically there is a 4th arrangement. We'll see the 3rd arrangement when we get over it in the receipt, but the 4th arrangement happens a lot with larger pipes, like these here to my left. Sometimes you just have to find a place that they fit. And so while these are kind of in a tierced arrangement, there's not 4 sets of them, there's 2. There's one on this side and one on the other side. But sometimes, you know, there's only certain places that you can squeeze them in, and you have to go with what you can do. The other pipes in this chamber that we haven't talked about yet are really some of the most important visually for the organ. They're the facade pipes. They're what everybody sees when they look up at the organ. Now, some people have heard that in organs that they aren't speaking pipes. All of our facade pipes are speaking pipes. Some of them may be part of the mantra, which is back over here. Some of them are part of the Preston. They fill in different roles. But many times, the speaking height of the pipe does not match the architectural height that you need to make it look correct in the organ. So when they need a taller pipe, what they've done is they cut a hole in the back side of the pipe that defines the speaking height. So I guess you could say that everything above the hole is for show, but you'll notice in the hole there is this blue piece right here. It's actually a metal piece. It's got a blue felt around it. And by raising or lowering that, you can adjust the pitch of the pipe so that it's tunable just as if it was any of these other pipes. Another feature up here in our organ isn't even a pipe. It's the cymbal stern. It's these 8 bells arranged in a circle. You'll see a bar sitting across here. It's on a motor that spins the bar around, and there's 2 little metal balls that hang off the end of the bar. And when it spins around, it rings the bells. Now the bells can be arranged in different orders. This order happens to be the order that the installer liked, but if there was a different order that someone wanted, they could rearrange it and they'd ring in a different order. We're now in the receipt chamber, which is on the left side as you look at the chancel area from the audience in the sanctuary. Now in here we'll see the third arrangement of pipes, which is the diatonic. If you look on this side, you'll see it starts up here high with the low pipes, tall low pipes, and it goes down to the high pipes, but that's only half the pipes. The other half the pipes are on a mirror image on the other side. So one side starts with C, D, E, F sharp, G sharp. The other side would start with C sharp, D sharp, F, G, A, and so it's a different arrangement of the pipes. I'm really not 100% sure why they do the different arrangements, but they do. So I know some stuff just enough to be dangerous maybe. But the other thing we can see up here is all the different varieties, many of the different varieties of pipes. We've got a reed pipe right here in front of me. And then if you look next is a stopped flue pipe. And you'll notice these stops don't have holes in them. But you also notice that they transition to wooden pipes as the notes get lower in this rank. And they have a wooden stopper in them. You would either raise or lower that stopper to adjust the tuning. You have a fairly straight flue pipe next to it. And then you'll notice this next flue pipe has a tapered flue. So all those variations create a different sound in the pipe. Another thing you'll notice is the different materials are made out of. So you'll see there's different metals on different parts of the pipe. As we pan over here, you'll see the pipes up here looks almost like a leopard print in the tops of these pipes, but all the metals behave differently, and so they create a different sound. So that, you know, over the years, pipe makers have figured out the best metals to make all the different pipes out of, and so we can get all the beautiful sound. Sometimes there's not enough room to fit the pipe in the space you have to put it. And so they come up with interesting arrangements to curl these pipes around to get them to fit. If you'll notice, these, if I can get there, go almost to the ceiling. But it looks like they needed about 2 more feet of space to fit this pipe in, so they had to curl it around. You notice the one next to it, they just go out and back in to get a little extra length so that the pipe will fit in the space they have to fit it. Now we're up in the positive chamber. And again, most of the pipes in here are arranged in a diatonic format, although it's a little different. Where in the other chamber, the 2 rows were facing each other, in this chamber, they both face out, and so the one at the end corresponds with the pipes at the far end, and they work their way in pairs until you get to the middle where they're right next to each other. Now this set of pipes to my right is the 8-foot corn glaze. Now it's a reed pipe, so it's got a resonator here, but you'll notice this resonator is different from all the others in that it's got a closed top to it. That makes a different sound that some people like. And so, you know, it's one of the many variations in the pipes that we have up here. Right. Our last set of pipes that we're going to talk about in here is one of the premier pipes in this organ. It's our tuba. Now, these are a big, bold pipe. They're so bold that there's a set of earmuffs that sticks here. But when you're tuning these pipes, you want to wear these earmuffs so that you still have hearing when it's done. Now, they're pretty good earmuffs, so you can't hear much, but you can hear to tune these pipes. I was a little skeptical at first, but you can still hear it. So you don't want to be up here when someone's playing these pipes without earmuffs. All right, so this is one set of instruments that is not a pipe in our organ. These are the chimes, and there's a little hammer up here that's activated by the keys on the organ that hammers and rings the chimes. You may have heard these chimes ringing the hour before a wedding, or sometimes ringing the hour before the service starts. And they're used in some pieces, but it adds a little special touch to a lot of stuff. All right, when I first started working for the church a little over 21 years ago, the organ was a big mystery to me. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know how it worked. And my first memorable experience with the organ was at a district hymn sing. Christ United Methodist Church was fairly new. You know, they're a few years old, but they had a huge choir. And they were at the district hymn sing. They were shoehorning themselves into our little chancel area, getting ready to do their number. And a cipher goes off in the organ. That's where one of the valves gets stuck open on a pipe. And it just keeps playing. And I mean, it's just totally distracting. And you know, everybody's looking to me to do something about it. And I'm like, I don't know what to do about it, you know. And so we ended up just having to turn the organ off and finished out the hymn sing with the piano. But wow, I was like, man, I don't know. That was nerve-wracking. My next experience with the organ was our organist, Ed, called me one Saturday. He's up here practicing. And he said, Will, the organ quit playing in the middle of my practicing. And so I come up here, you know, and we're looking around trying to figure out what's going on. Well, we finally found it. Where the blower motor transitions to the pipes to deliver all the air to the wind chest, there's a cloth sleeve that reduces the vibration. Well, that had just split open and was blowing all the air out the side. And so after a quick trip to Hancock Fabrics and a couple minutes on the sewing machine, we had a new sleeve and put it on and we're good to go for Sunday morning. Well, I didn't really learn much more about the organ, you know, for the next 18 years or so, and until we started this project. I started to learn a little bit as we were doing the planning and all, but then when installation started, the Galas showed up with a semi-truck full of pipes and chests and all, and the facade. That's when it really started for me. Andy and I jumped right in and helped them with the install over the next 5 weeks or so. And we really soaked up all that we could, learning about the organ and how it works, you know, how the different pipes play, and even a little bit how, you know, I'd stand up there and watch them as they're doing the initial tuning, just so I could learn. And so that was great. I learned a lot there. And then about 6 months later, after the organ's in, they've been back down a couple times to work on punch list items and stuff. John Ford tells Lawrence, our music director at the time, that Will's really not that far away from being able to tune the organ. He just needs, you know, maybe a week of training or something, and we'd be willing to bring him up to the shop and let him spend a week with us and train. And so when I heard that from Lawrence, I said, oh yeah, I'll go. And so Andy and I jumped on that opportunity, and we booked flights to go up to go up to Paterson, New Jersey, just a little under a year after they had done the initial install here. And we had a great time and learned so much. While we were up there, Jungjin was able to come up and spend 3 of the days in training with us. And so that worked out good too, because now we had a more common language to communicate about the organ and what was happening. And so it really was a blessing to have her up there learning to tune with us, because while she has a doctorate in organ playing, she never really had any classes on organ maintenance and organ tuning. So it was learning for her, and we really enjoyed having her up there. So we spent our first 3 days tuning in a church that was under construction. And the church was doing a complete makeover. It's a Catholic church, and using all kinds of marble. And when we get there, the Paragalas are adding an antiphonal pipe organ in the balcony. And we get there, they're getting close to being ready to wrap this project up. And so we had a chest much like this one beside me that was full of pipes. It needed to be cleaned, so Andy and I, the first morning, we took out all the pipes, vacuumed off the chest, and then put the pipes back in. And then it was time for us to learn how to tune. And so we start tuning, with John 4 sitting there helping, but I was a little nervous. It was terribly hard to hear in there, because as you can imagine, they're still laying marble floor and installing all the marble statues. So, there's places where they're chipping up the marble that was put down wrong. And so they got chipping hammers and tile saws and all going, and we're trying to tune an organ. And the other thing that made it difficult was the console was clear at the back end of the balcony, and we're up at the front of the chancel area trying to tune this organ. So, we did that for 2 days with the 3 of us and John 4 right there with us, trying to help us hear what we're trying to hear as you tune in. And then that night, John asked us what we could go to another site and work on a different organ, or we could go back to that site and work on tuning. Well, we felt, there was still more to learn at that site, so we went back. And this time, John was working on other stuff, and the 3 of us, myself, Andy, and Jungjin, were tuning the organ by ourselves. And so we learned so much more that day on how to listen and hear the pipes whether the pipe's in tune or not. And so it was a great experience. Well, then we get to day 4 of our training, and it's a Thursday. And Thursday they have a normal appointment that they go into St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York, where they have the contract to upgrade and maintain that organ. And Thursday's their day. They go in and fix any problems that the organist has identified. And so we go in with them. And, Jungjin gets to play the organ for a little bit. And it gives a treat for the people down there on the floor who are touring. And then we get to tuning. And so John 3 and Jungjin stay down on the console and are playing the notes that need to be tuned. And we're up in the chambers with John 4 and going around to there's pipes stuck everywhere up there, all kinds of chambers, and we find the pipes and we tune them. Well, by mid-morning, John 4 has to leave and take Jungjin to the airport so she can get to her flight. Well, that just leaves me and Andy and John 3. Well, John 3's got to stay down on the console, and so Andy and I are up there in the chambers, and he says, all right, go over to the next bay over and go up to the second level and find this pipe. And he plays a pipe. We go find the pipe. He plays another pipe so we can match the pitch, and we tune the pipe. And we do that for a couple hours there at St. Patrick's Cathedral. And Who can imagine? I'm in my 4th day training for organ tuning, and we're in St. Patrick's Cathedral tuning the organ. I never would have guessed that. You know, St. Patrick's was also the only place I've seen 64-foot pipes, and those were amazing. You know, they're up in the attic and they're laying horizontally because you couldn't stand them up. And I mean, they're literally 64 feet long and probably, 2 foot square at the top of the pipe. Well, we didn't tune those pipes, but we did watch John Ford tune. I think it was the F sharp while we were there. It was out of tune. And I'll be totally honest, I couldn't tell if he got it in tune or not, because the waves are so big in those pipes that I'm like, well, if you say it's in tune, I'll believe it. Well, I couldn't have been more pleased with the way our organ turned out and the organ builder we picked. They have become great friends, and we always look forward to getting together. I hope you've enjoyed watching this and maybe learned a little bit about the organ. But for now, stay safe, and I look forward to when we can get back together.